Sparket here. I actually have a current investment in this subnet, hoping it does get deregistered. Hey, this is Travis. Today, I want to go over a bunch of subnets that are actually productive. You know, if you're new to Bittensor, it's kind of hard to see, like, where are the subnets? I've looked at one for like an hour and I don't understand what they're doing, and you just kind of waste your time that way. So I just want to show you how I use Taoflute.com in order to find subnets that are actually being productive, subnets that are actually exciting. And I often show off Talflute, like the members only version. And in today's video, I just want to show you the free version and how valuable that is. There's just a lot of information to be gleaned from it. In other videos, I've gone over, what each of the columns means. If you don't know what it means, you can just hover over the I here to find out. So I'm not necessarily going to go that deep into what each column means, but I'm going to show you a few ways that I use it in order to find the subnets that are very productive within Bittensor, or maybe the subnets that are maybe overlooked by other people. So when you first go to Taoflute.com, it might be a little bit overwhelming. So if you want to see, say, the subnets that have been really working, what you can do is sort by this lines per day column here. And so what that does, again, you can just hover over the I here to find out what that does. Sorting this column sorts by the most recent commit. So the subnet at the very top here is the subnet that most recently committed code. So they've actually been working. And we can get a lot of information out of this, right? We can see that Lead Poet, Ridges, Brainplay, Bitsec, they're all working pretty hard. They're actually making code commits. And you can see that the average number of lines per day in the last 30 days, that's this column here, is 115 code lines per day. Now, very quickly, if you click on this graph here, it'll actually just bring you to their GitHub. And from there, you can go and see, 1 hour ago was when this subnet committed the most recent code change. And of course, you can just go and read all the subnet code, the README and whatnot. You can click here to find out more about the most recent commit, or you can click here to see like a list of all the commits that they've done recently. So just sorting by this column looks at all the GitHub repos for all of the subnets on Bittensor and just allows you to see these are very productive subnets. This column here is actually the number of code lines in the biggest commit in the last 14 days. So by using this column, I can tell that Brainplay here committed something massive recently, a 32,000 line commit. That must have been this one about a week ago. And if I'm technical and I want to go and read that commit, I can just click on this number here, and then I can actually read through all the code changes that have been made in this one commit. So that's one way to kind of get an idea of what's happening with Bittensor subnets. And if you scroll down here, again, this column is sorted by the most recent git commit. You can see this last bar is moving to the left slowly as we scroll down. So if we keep scrolling, we can see this 111 here was the last subnet that had any sort of commits in the last 30 days. And the scroll bar on the left here is about halfway down the subnets. So from this, I can easily glean that half of the subnets have put out a code change in the last month. Typically, when I'm investing in subnets, I want to see that subnets are actually producing code. There might be a valid reason not to be committing code, right? Maybe they're working on their app or something like that. And the GitHub that is being tracked here isn't the app's GitHub, it's the Bittensor Subnets GitHub. So you need to take this lines per day with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it's a good way to just find out what subnets are actually working. So if I scroll up to the very top here, and again, I'm sorting by the number of lines that have been committed per day, I can see that currently the sponsor of today's video, Resi here, they've put out a code change in the last about day or so. So this is a subnet that is actually productive. They're building the oracle for the $300 trillion real estate market. So tokenizing property is something that has been long promised for crypto, but you can't really tokenize real estate without a trustable pricing and verification system, and that's Resi here, or at least that's their goal. So if you want to find out more about a particular subnet, you can just click here on this link icon. This is their website, so we're going to do that for Resi here. And then you can go and actually look at what the subnet is doing. So Resi is a decentralized competition to build AI models that accurately price real estate. And you can see the competition here. We can actually go and look at some of the miners and how those miners are performing. And in particular, I really like when a subnet has this sort of graph on their website, because Zillow, the real estate marketplace, they lost $1 billion due to inaccurate pricing with their models. That's this green line, this Zestimate here. At the time that they lost that $1 billion, they were 7% inaccurate. So on this graph, that would be a 93% accuracy. Whereas you can see here that Resi is improving daily. And if they can get their top score here up to 98%, so that's like 2% pricing accuracy. If they can do that, then they unlock access to institutional grade markets. So in the long term, they hope to build like a DeFi style lending against tokenized real estate. And the foundation for that is this sort of like accurate pricing platform, right? Where they're actually measuring how accurate miners are and rewarding the ones that are the most accurate. And so to get to resilabs.ai, there's a link in the description, but also on Talflute here, that's just this website button. And so if we evaluate Resi in particular, you can see this flags and links column here. It has no red flags on the subnet. So they're doing a lot right. There's nothing obviously scammy about the subnet, and they're putting out code changes. And the next thing I wanted to talk about in this video, they also look good on this front, which is this miner burn percentage column. You can think of this as the amount that is being paid to miners on the subnet. So if it's at 100%, that means that all the miner emissions are being burned on the subnet. So the subnet actually is not producing anything. They're not paying miners when this is at 100%. However, if it's at 99%, then they are paying some miners. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but sometimes it's actually good to have a high miner burn that isn't 100%. So the main thing to think about with this column in particular is, are they producing something? If the miner burn percentage is less than 100%, even 99%, that means that they are paying miners to do something. So in Resi's case here, we can see that they are paying their miners 100% of the emissions that they could. So if you want to, you can sort this column and we can see all of the subnets that are getting 100% miner burn. So they aren't producing anything, or at least they're not paying their miners anything. And then if we scroll down here, we can see again, the scroll bar on the page here is about halfway. So that means about half the subnets are actually emitting and paying miners. So about half of them are actually productive in some way. And then if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we're going to see a whole bunch of subnets that are giving their miners the most amount of emissions. This sort of information is good for a miner because you want to be choosing a subnet that is actually paying its miners, right? You don't want to waste your time trying to learn how to mine a subnet that is not paying its miners. So this is just super handy for miners as well. And then we have the number of miners, at least by wallet, that are receiving emissions on the subnet. So again, you can sort this column and see, which subnets are really competitive, or at least they have a lot of miners on them. Now, I like to look for subnets that have a lower price, right? So a higher possible upside. So I'll very often sort by price ascending when I'm looking for a new subnet to invest in. And I'll just kind of go up the list here and I'll try to find a subnet that has maybe a lot of lines per day, right? A lot of activity. Like, Autoppia has been putting in a lot of work. They've been doing a lot on their subnet recently. That might warrant, a closer look at that particular subnet. Same with Brainplay here. Again, really low price subnet that is doing a lot of work. Now this big flags column here, it flags a lot of things that are going on with the subnet. So if we were to look at Autoppia, it has very few red flags. However, it does have one here, this big 6. That means it's 6th in line to be deregistered. Deregistration basically happens based off of price or an EMA of the price. So if their price slips much further, they could get deregistered, meaning that they lose control of the subnet. It goes to a new subnet owner, and all the investors in that subnet are paid out the Tau that is in that subnet's pool, and they're paid out based off of this liquidation haircut column. So if this subnet was to get deregistered, the holders of this alpha token would lose 22%. I start to get a little bit worried when they're getting close to deregistration because, these numbers, they fluctuate a lot. And actually, I'm going to sort it by this column. Sorting by this column sorts it by deregistration number. So now you can see that they're, going from 1 to 10. You can see that the prices don't exactly line up. This is because this is an EMA of the price. So if a subnet's price is consistently going down, then they're surely going to get deregistered. So I want to get back to this liquidation haircut column, right? So if the subnet gets deregistered, holders are going to lose 22%, and that's not so good. But let's go back to sorting by price ascending here. And we're looking for subnets that have been productive. And I see another one here, right? Brainplay. They have been very productive. They put out a crap load of code lines recently. Their price has fallen a lot in the last 30 days. That's this column. But this one is different because it has a 0% liquidation haircut, meaning that if the subnet was deregistered right now, as I'm making this video, the holders of that alpha token would lose zero. They would lose nothing. They would just get the equivalent amount of tau as what their alpha is currently worth. So this number here is really important because it shows the amount of risk that you're taking investing in this subnet. So already I'm kind of thinking like Brainplay here seems like a very low risk play, and they're making a lot of code changes. This is one that I probably should look into more. As an investor, I'm not risking very much, and there is a team that is actually doing something. So I'm going to look a little bit more into it myself here. I'm seeing no red flags other than 100% miner burn on the subnet, meaning that no miners, zero miners here are receiving emissions. And the only other red flag here is the whale wallet. So there's a whale that holds so much alpha on the subnet that they could crash the price by 27%. You know what? I'm going to click on this guy, learn a little bit more about the wallet. So let's take a look at transactions here. I can see they've been buying a lot of the subnet. They did sell a little bit recently, and they're transferring in and out of their wallet some of the alpha from this other wallet, and they're getting transfers in from this one as well. So looking at both of these wallets here, this one's just transferring alpha in and out. This one's doing the same. They're not really selling it. And really, what's the point in selling it when the liquidation haircut here is 0%? Now, I can tell you that historically, this haircut descends at around 2 or 3% per week. It descends a little bit slower when there's no emissions to miners, which there isn't on this subnet because of this 100% miner burn here. But with the amount that they're committing, with the amount of code changes that they're making, I think they're actually trying to become a productive subnet. So I want to learn maybe a little bit more about them. I'm going to hover over this here. When you hover over many of these columns, you get more information. So this one here is a Bittensor subnet designed to benchmark LLMs through competitive validator scored AI games such as Codenames and 20 questions. So that really doesn't tell me too much about it. If I wanted to learn more about it here, I would click on their GitHub link and just read through it. So based on reading this, it's just having miners play games against each other, but I'm not really sure what the end goal here is, because with the subnet that I invest in, I at least want to have an idea of, how are they going to make money in the long run? How are they going to drive value to their alpha token? Because within Bittensor, all the alpha tokens are very speculative right now, right? There's very few subnets that are productive and actually driving value to their alpha token through buybacks and burns, or maybe just the subnet owner buying back their token and not burning it, and just like using that liquid capital to get other things done. We don't see many subnets that are actually productive yet, but I like to see that there's a long-term plan for subnets. So I'm looking a little bit at their website here, but I don't see how they're going to drive value to their alpha token, how they're going to get revenue. So the last hope that I have here, and I want to look a little bit more at is there a way that I can, justify an investment in this subnet? Because I love the fact that there's a very low risk as far as the liquidation haircut, right? If I hold this for a while, there's a fairly reasonable possibility that there's going to be some spikes up in price, but I would potentially be losing 2% per week just based off of the liquidation haircut. Historically goes down by around 2% per week, as I said earlier. So I'm going to look at their X here. It's been 7 days since their last post, and scrolling through their X account here, I couldn't find very much, although this one here is kind of interesting. They've decided to partner with Manifold Labs. Apparently they're providing guidance and mentorship to Brainplay here. So that might be a good thing because Manifold Labs is a very established player in the Bittensor space. They run Targon where they already have revenue. And then the last thing I like to look at when researching a subnet is their Discord. So in the Bittensor Discord here, you can see on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of channels. And so we're going to scroll down and we're going to find subnet 117 here. And the first thing I like to do is look at the pinned messages up here. These are messages that the subnet owner thought was really important for everybody to read. So there's an emission system update here. Sometimes they have links to various websites or dashboards that could be interesting. The one thing about this subnet that does immediately jump out to me is there's not that much activity. There's some subnets where they're chatting constantly and they've got miners asking lots and lots of questions. Again, what that kind of indicates to me, or suggests at the very least, is that this subnet is potentially good to mine on because there might not be that much competition. Going back to Talflute here and looking at this liquidation haircut, there's a very low chance that it's going to get deregistered. So I think as a new miner, I'd probably be looking at this subnet. As an investor, though, I'd like to maybe see a little bit more as far as future plans for revenue. Obviously they've built a competition on the subnet, but is that competition going to be monetizable, right? Now, another one on this list, Sparket here, they've got a positive liquidation haircut, and I actually have a current investment in this subnet, not because I think that they're going to produce anything good, but because if it gets deregistered right now, I would get a 6% on my investment, a 6% return. If the subnet's liquidation haircut falls, meaning that its price has risen to its liquidation price here, then I might consider getting out. But for now, it's basically risk-free, and I'm actually hoping it does get deregistered because this liquidation haircut is nice. And then finally, one last way that I like to look at subnets is I like to sort by this 30-day price column, which subnets have gone down a lot in the last 30 days. Another way to put this is which subnets have been maybe overlooked in the last 30 days and seen a lot of sell pressure and maybe are undervalued because of that. And we can actually see some interesting names here: Almanac, Handshake, Brainplay, like we just looked at. BitSec has gone down a lot. Why is its price so low? I think BitSec is actually a really interesting one. And I do know that they have revenue on their roadmap. So this one is kind of appealing to me, and they have been still working on the subnet, although they do have the 100% miner burn on here, meaning that no miners are getting emissions. If this is a temporary thing, they just put it on today, that's reasonable. They're protecting their subnet price, making less sell pressure than there would be if miners were getting rewarded and then selling their emissions, right? And as I go down this list, one of the things I'm doing is I'm looking for the ones that have gone down a lot, who have a really low price, but potentially a high haircut. That means that, they're not going to get deregistered for a while, even though that their price is low. Another interesting one, at least to my eye, is Bittensor here. Its price has fallen quite a bit. Anyways, I hope this was really helpful. I wonder if there's any columns that you would be interested in seeing on Taoflute. So let me know that in the comments. I read all the comments on my videos. And if you're like a seasoned user of Taoflute and you're like, I want a little bit more information, you can become a Bittensor Alpha Group member and get access to a little bit more here. And then we can actually drill down into the subnets and just get a lot more information. Again, a lot of this is just information that investors really want to know, and just saves a lot of time as far as researching subnets. The link to joining BAG or the Bittensor Alpha Group is in the description. And I also just wanted to say thank you to Sebi from Resi, as he is the most recent Bittensor Alpha Group member. He was telling me that he finds the information on his subnets drill down here really informative. And I think there's many subnet owners that could benefit from the information on Talflute, even if they don't sign up as members, like just making sure all of your red flags are addressed here, right? As a subnet owner, I think it's really easy to just go through all these red flags and to see, oh, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. And I would suggest that if there's any subnets that you're invested in that has a red flag or two, hover over it, find out why, and then maybe just send the subnet owner a link to that subnet in particular. What you can do here is you can go up here and search for the subnet that you're invested in. So let's say Resi, and you can actually take this URL here. You can send it to the subnet owner or your friends, and you can just share maybe a few subnets if you like. I added Bitcast here, for example. You can compare them there, but you can also see the red flags and whatnot. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.